excited that I
It's
get
a
to.
long break. Go away. Go away.
Okay, we will get started. Our fearless leader is not feeling well tonight, so you're stuck with me. Welcome to the January 7th, 2026 Swampscott Select Board meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and if you are so inclined, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have some very important business to start out tonight. Long-awaited fulfillment of two key positions in town government. The first is the appointment of our new finance director, Patrick LUDDY. Oh. Might be a name some people are familiar with. Wow. Spontaneous. Yeah. All right, fantastic. So we need to have a vote to appoint Sir Patrick. A discussion, if you are so inclined.
Motion to appoint.
Okay.
Second.
All right. I guess, any further discussion?
I do have a couple of questions. Not really for you, Patrick, but because, Patrick, this is a new role for you, and we also have a new town administrator. When we've hired someone who is new to a position, we've also had a significant amount of backup for assistance, and I think that was with Eric and his crew. Are we still going to do that?
I've spoken to Bill about putting together a proposal that would be focused more on supporting Patrick in the role as opposed to Bill being in there once a week and working remotely.
Right.
So yeah, Eric and Bill were very excited that this was the direction we were going in after having worked with him.
Okay.
And they're happy to figure out what the best way to support him is going forward that makes sense for us financially, but also gives him all the support that he needs.
Okay, that's my concern is support for him.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Right, because this is wonderful, we're filling this role, but this does seem to create an opening for another role. So,
I have a brief update that I can give during the TA report, and that way we can move it out of the appointment if that's okay.
Sure, sure.
But yes, I can speak to that a little bit as
well,
well.
we might not want Patrick to move, you know.
We definitely do.
And I just want to express my enthusiasm for this agenda item this evening. Patrick, you know, you started as an intern, and you've worked your way up the ranks, and it's really been exciting to work with you and to see you learn and grow in the role. And you know, you've saved the town millions of dollars with bonding, and you know, we really look forward to working with you and seeing your expertise continue to build. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
I would second that. I just feel like it's extremely consistent, high-quality advice and work product that you deliver to us, and that gives me a lot of faith in, you know, what we're dealing with. So I really appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you in this new role.
Great. Thank you so much.
Assuming we all vote, you know. So any further ado?
I just want to say, Patrick, you're a shining star, and I'm not going to speak to it on a financial level because everybody's already done that, but you're an outstanding human. I've really enjoyed my interactions with you, always professional, always pleasant, always wanting to help. I appreciate that. I'm excited for you. I remember when you started as an intern, I was still working in the schools. You know, it's great to see that progression, right? And that's what we want. So kudos to you, welcome. And I promise we will try not to be too tough anytime we ask you anything. For me, anyway, I can say that.
So how many years? So when were you an intern? I mean, I do remember when you were an
Yeah.
intern. Was that like 6 years ago?
Yeah, so I've been with the town over 7 years now.
Oh, all
Time
right, so you're an old man.
flies by. It sounds longer than it feels for me, but this is a really great opportunity, and I want to thank the board and the town administrator for supporting this. You haven't voted yet, but I'm looking forward to the additional responsibility, and it means a lot. It's very humbling to be trusted with that. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot of great things, contributing in new and different ways. So thank you.
Great.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Super.
Congratulations.
Thanks, thanks.
I just have, someone asked me today if you were an accountant. And I just want to just make sure publicly, not only are you accountant, but you have a master's degree in accounting.
I do, yes.
Very good with numbers.
Yes.
Great.
Excellent. All right. Second item, the appointment of our new town clerk, Kathleen DuPont. Wanna-
Yeah, if I could just speak
Yeah.
real briefly, Kathleen or Katie, do you prefer? Okay, Kathleen is here with us tonight. She's the Assistant City Clerk in Beverly right now, comes highly recommended from both elected officials and a couple of folks that work in City Hall. She has, over the course of her time there and in Peabody, worked not only to, deliver on the job and work well in elections and all the other, the efforts of the city clerk over there, she's also sought and been completing designations that we will be very lucky to have. Certified municipal clerk, certified Massachusetts, the CMMC?
Yeah, certified Massachusetts municipal clerk, yeah.
That as well. So we're very fortunate to have a qualified candidate like this that came to us. She was great in the interview process with us, and we're looking forward to having her.
Terrific. Great.
Motion to appoint.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, after you're looking at this resume, we are very, very fortunate tonight. Not only do we have a rock star in Patrick, but clearly we hit the lottery having you come to Swampscott. Thank you so much.
Thank you, that's very kind of you to say, I appreciate it.
We have a history of having really wonderful clerks, so, you have big shoes to fill, but clearly it's not going to be an issue for you.
Thank you, I look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I also want to thank Mike for stepping in, stepping up, as always.
Thank you, Mike.
Amazing.
Seemed seamless as far as I was concerned, so I appreciate that. Welcome. Assuming we all vote now, no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I don't know if you all want to get in it or.
Sure.
Sure we do.
One big happy picture.
I never do, but I will.
It's a new year.
I know. I'm still short.
Yeah,
We're all shrinking.
Where do you want us? Okay, we'll be behind there and candidates will be there.
Here, you guys.
Squeeze in a little bit more. Everybody smile. Oh, wait, we're blocking Mary Ellen. Okay. Look at yourselves in the lid item.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, nice to meet you.
Okay, next up, Nick, Town Administrator's Report.
So I just was planning to begin not knowing where we were going to fall originally in the agenda, talking about Patrick and Katie and Mike as well, and all of the work that Mike has done to keep us up to speed and on track throughout his time. And I think he and Katie will work really well together. He has apparently pulled out some of his hair as well, but you can get back to the weddings and all the things that you enjoy doing. I know. I said the stuff you enjoy. And with Patrick, I just want to highlight the fact that since I came here, he has been acting as a finance director. Any question related in any way to all of the roles and responsibilities that fall into this new position for him, I've been going to him and darkening his doorstep, and he's been great with answers. And I want to highlight what you all have said, that it's direct, it's informational, it's not shaded. He gives, very real, very good advice. So I'm looking forward to recognizing the effort that he has been making through this promotion as well. Beyond that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the last few weeks. Had an introductory meeting with Thatcher and Marblehead to talk about things that have worked well on the regionalization side for them. Ambulance service was one that I think has been a win on both sides. As an example, I've had ongoing conversations with Allison as well. We actually spoke today to see if there might be any near or longer term opportunities. And I think some do exist. They're more on the horizon than things that we can necessarily do right now, but we're looking at any time that there's any difference in service level or staffing on either side, the three of us sort of communicated that we'll keep in touch with one another to see if there's chances both to backfill in the near term, but to look for ways to share services and share resources beyond that. In a similar vein, I had an introductory conversation with Colby at the North Shore IT Collaborative. He's the IT director in Danvers who runs the program. It was very informative. Pricing and service sounds great, but I asked for a few more details, and he's planned to get that to me this week. We'll look at that compared to what we have in place, what we have done in the past, and see what might be a good opportunity. I think there's a lot there that could be useful. Part of it would be on the town hall operations side. The in-person support is where they're a little less hands-on maybe, but they focus on having a network and network capabilities that allows them to remote in more easily and support the staff and maybe not be so focused on a break-fix model, but instead maintaining the services in a way that will keep our service level at a high level throughout. We'll see what the pricing looks like. I'll be back to you later in the year, and obviously if it's advantageous, it's something we would look to do in the near term, not just waiting until next fiscal year, because we are currently at will with our current vendor. So it's something we're certainly looking more into to see what might be there. Patrick and I have also kicked off the internal process with department heads on budgeting. This Friday, they have a deadline to get back to us with their expense side budgeting. Looking ahead, we are putting together the salary side with the idea that next week will be the first sit-downs with the department heads and Patrick and I to go over them. That will, give us more information than we had when we last did the very high-level projections on expenses and revenue for you all, so it'll help us to begin to dial it in and give you more information as we go. On the police department update, I know there have been questions here about hiring there because there's a number of vacancies. I think when I was last here, there were between 15 and 25 candidates that depending on when we had the discussion, that had submitted their applications and needed to go through a vetting process and then the interview process. As of the most recent update, there were 28 applications that had gone in. 9 were scheduled for interviews, and those interviews were completed yesterday. There were a couple of very good candidates that they're looking to move through the process quickly to see if we can get a conditional offer to them if everyone agrees. But the initial board broad panel interview certainly agree that there are a number of good candidates there, and we'll continue to move forward. I'll also continue to provide those updates, both in the written update and here in the discussions that we have. We're working through the CBA negotiations with them as well. We have a couple of more bargaining sessions scheduled, just so you all are generally aware of that. And I also wanted to highlight that Officer Caruso received a commendation from Lieutenant Waters for notifying the lieutenant of a person in crisis when he was off duty. The PD responded and rendered assistance. It was outstanding work by Officer Caruso for taking prompt action despite being off duty and making sure that he supported the responding officers and the supervisor on duty as well. So I just wanted to highlight that. Community development. We're submitting an application for the rehab of the basketball court at Phillips Park. The Land and Water Conservation Fund can provide up to 50% of the eligible costs for projects, and that's something that we'll be submitting this week. It's for an FY27 project, and it would also be something that we would probably seek a match from the CPC, which I know a lot of folks are interested in going forward, but this is one of the recreation opportunities that might be a good fit in this first year. On human resources, general update. As you all know, we have the executive assistant to the TA and select board posted. We have 2 applicants that we're moving forward to be interviewed. One was today, another one is on Monday. We're also continuing phone screens to add to that list, but we continue to move forward in that process. The assessor's position has not yet gotten any responses. This was one that I talked to both Allison and Thatcher about. There's not an immediate answer that might work between the 3 communities, but we all see that there may be an opportunity in the longer term to share maybe a high-level staff person between towns and then have a well-trained clerk that is full-time in each community to make sure they can support resident concerns and also keep the gears running. But that, again, is not something we're doing necessarily immediately. We've also had a number of applications for the assistant town accountant with, I believe it's 6 applicants that are in the telephone screening process right now. Doug, you also raised a question about the treasurer collector position because we're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul in this case. We had at least one other very qualified candidate for finance director that we did not decide to move forward with, that I have had an initial discussion to see if there's an interest in applying for this.
Cool.
We posted it yesterday to see if we do get any responses, but in sort of functionally, I'm already looking at that individual as a finalist, so that we can see what the response is, if any, and then also move forward with that candidate if that's not the case. So I wanted to separate it from the sort of recognition of the two folks we were appointing tonight. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have of items that I did not cover.
So one question I have, are we looking past Marblehead and Nahant in terms of collaboration for like this assessor's position? Would we consider some other small towns on the North Shore, maybe do like a job share of some sort?
We
Hamilton,
could.
Wenham, any of those smaller,
The-
Manchester?
On the assessor position specifically, that's one that I want to make sure that if we do that, the communities are in many ways similar in their composition. The example nearby is Linfield, Wakefield, Reading have one. And when I actually talked to the TA in Linfield, they're, said it's great, but it's really personality driven, that
Yeah.
Victor is such a force that that's how it works, even though the communities are not super similar in their composition. And when I talked to Victor, who is the assessor among those three communities, he pointed out the same thing, that Linfield's single-family homes, Market Street, and really nothing else.
Right.
Whereas Wakefield is very different, and Reading's somewhere in between. He suggested if we were going to do it, make sure that it would be something like Nahant and Marblehead, because the housing stock is similar, though not the same, and that there are oceanfront properties, there are parts of the community that are more accessible, or quote-unquote starter homes, even though the prices are
Yeah.
significant now, and limited commercial and retail. So we can certainly look at other communities, but that was why I focused there, because both from him and talking to Allison, we had a similar idea. As you know, we do work with Lynn on veteran services and the dispatch, so there's always different ways to do it, but the assessor specifically, we were looking for something that was similar, more similar, yeah.
For sure.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nick?
Okay.
No, the only thing, I would like to see the schedule for the police, because you're saying the interviews are already completed.
The panel interview
Panel interviews are
that was completed yesterday.
Yeah, so if you could send us an update on as far as what are the next steps, what's the anticipation for when they're gonna get into the academy?
So, yeah, we're not at the academy level yet. Right now, it's getting the ones that folks want to move forward from that list
Right,
to interviews that would be with the chief and myself and Mary Ann, I believe.
right,
So at this point, I know that there were, I think, two that everyone agreed right away would be great to move forward, and they were working to schedule something as quickly as possible. I'm happy to give the update as we go, for sure, so that you all know where we are in the process. But I wouldn't be able to tell you yet, when I think the next academy we could even try to get into would be in March. I don't know where it's located. So if it's a Western Mass one, it might be something that we would even wait for the April one and have them work somewhere on the department now.
And so on the fire department, when they're hiring a new candidate for the fire department, they can bring them into the fire department right away. On the police department, they have to go through the academy, but is there any chance that if we hire, can we hire anyone and have them work the phones or work the desk?
I believe there is, but let me confirm that for you.
Okay.
And I know with the fire, they train them up on several core competencies before they put them. And that's been a process that they've engaged in there for 40-plus years. It was actually a question I had for Graham last week, so that's the only reason I know that. So I'll definitely talk to Ruben about what those opportunities are to have someone on board, so that they're sort of looped in and hooked in with the organization even before they get to the academy.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Next item, public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment?
Great.
That's right. Scaring everybody away. All right, excellent. Okay, moving right along. The next item on the public agenda was a public hearing. We're actually going to be delaying that until our next meeting. Is our next
The
meeting?
next meeting will be,
In
the regular meeting is February 4th, I
4th,
believe. Yeah,
yep.
because the 21st will be the tri-board.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Do we have to make a motion to continue the public hearing onto that date? I mean, when we made a motion before, was
Was
it
it
a
to
motion
this
for the
date?
specific date?
Let's do that to
Sure, why
before,
not?
just so,
All right.
yeah.
Take a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to extend the public hearing until, what was the date?
February 4th.
February 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, next thing up is a discussion, update, and possible vote on the Pine Street improvement.
Did I ask to jump to solid waste, because Marzi was going to join us for that, and I think she's setting up CPC and not yet here, unless that's her in the hallway.
No, she probably, because they're not starting till 7.
I know, she was checking on the technology.
There she is.
There she is.
Hey, we were just about to talk about Pine Street.
But we can let you settle in, and we can take another item first if you want.
It's up to you.
Let's do solid waste.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move along to solid waste contract update.
So, yep, so Wayne and the team on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee have been working way before I got here and have continued to work very hard. And we also have Brian, who is from Melrose, but DEP, right? We have a grant through DEP to have his support. He's working with the cohort of folks who have open contracts this year as well. So has been very helpful in sharing information. Wayne's going to give an update on the work of the committee with the idea that we want to get some feedback and direction from you all so that we can move forward. And I'll give a little bit of update on sort of where Gino and I are with this when you're done, if we want to start there.
And I understand we're doing 10 minutes with them, is that the understanding?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, we have like 7, 8 slides. We can move through
With the
quickly.
idea that there's
Yeah.
more time for discussion, that's
Great.
the hope if there is any.
Okay. Hi. Thank you very much for having us here. Again, we have Brian Walsh. He's our Municipal Assistance Coordinator for Northeast Region 2. And so thank you for coming
Yeah, happy to be
tonight.
here.
So we last presented to the Select Board back in April of last year. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee had come up with some strategic thoughts and ideas that we wanted to see investigated and implemented. Through that period of time, a lot happened. We had a 3-month trash strike. And so we got started in August. We put together a task force to develop a request for proposal and joined the community cohort with other communities throughout Massachusetts that are also working on their contracts at pretty much in the same time period. And that's where Brian comes in and has helped us greatly with that. So just quickly, the first bit of this is kind of explaining the role of the task force. It is put together with a wide variety of community.
Go to the next slide.
Yep, next slide.
Sorry, Wayne.
Yeah, of course. So it's put together through a variety of community inputs. Myself, Gino, Nick, Mary Ellen, Kathy Mick from SWAC, Eric Schneider from Finance Committee, Natalie Swanstrom from DPW and her expertise in procurement management, Jeff Vaughn from DPH, and of course Brian. We received, since the last time we talked, an 80-hour in-kind grant from the DEP, which is useful pretty much for consulting, and Brian is our consultant by default for that. So he's been able to work exclusively for that time period to aid us in this work. Next slide. So just kind of the high-level, big-picture review from what we talked about last April, right? Quick bullet points are obviously landfills are closing, trash is being exported out of state. We figure within the next 5 years, about 90% of that trash will be exported. Other than the 2 or 3 remaining incinerators that we have in the state, there's no room for it. So right now, our trash is currently being rail carred to, let's say, South Carolina, I believe, by Republic. Second high-level bullet point is that haulers are mostly going automated. So and that's really for both safety issues and profit by the companies themselves to reduce the, of course, the labor cost. But trash hauling is one of the most dangerous professions in the U.S. at this point. So what that unfortunately does, fortunately and unfortunately, depending upon the way you look at it, is it threatens the operation of our current hybrid operation, pay-as-you-throw, or otherwise known as PAYT. And so as we know, that's the 135-gallon cart plus the blue bags, right? And we call that hybrid because the town has provided residents a baseline level of service, and any excess contributions to the trash stream is paid for on an as-need basis. Okay, so as we spoke about, the difficulty is having an automated truck, which comes in with, as some people probably know from other communities, comes in with a fork, lifts it, tosses it back, move on to the next residence. What we're trying to figure out is whether or not that can be combined with a bag. Currently, Republic is not offering that option. So we have, I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail in a few minutes. That's the issue for there. Okay, so our recycling contracts, since the last time we did it in 2015, have become increasingly more sophisticated across everybody in the country, let alone just us in Swampscott. We're going to have a requirement for material audits and recycling contamination determination. As we know, we talked about last time, over the last couple of years, we have no understanding what our current contamination level is and what the current makeup is. Okay, so commodity price sharing should be explored, and in order to understand commodity prices, in order to understand contractually what the value is of our recycling stream, we have to understand the proportion of it and understand how that fits in with what it's worth in the markets, right? As well as what the MRF, or the materials sorting facility, will be able to offer us in terms of sharing any revenue that comes from that. And lastly, of course, organics diversion, which has been, currently composting. It's certainly, I know, has the attention of the select board, and something that we want to take into account at the contracting level. Okay, next slide. So what have we done so far? We meet every 2 weeks at this point. We started in August as we formed the committee pretty much as we're in the middle of the strike. It was difficult to get a lot of energy behind it, also considering we were also at the time not knowing exactly who the future town administrator would be and what his or her potential thought process would be. So, but what we did do up until that point is that we prepared a legal analysis, which was included in a report that I forwarded to you. Kathy Mick did a really wonderful job at putting together line by line and discussing kind of in a format that we could then compare to new contract, highlighting the issues that we need to pay attention to, the advantageous, right now, the advantageous parts of the individual aspects of that contract, and things that we should be aware of moving into the future. So we also prepared a pretty sophisticated list of vendor interview questions that was researched both with the cohort and thoughts behind some of the challenges that we face, and how those kind of trying to be able to differentiate between, if we're interviewing 5 different vendors, being able to differentiate between, each one of them relative to the variabilities that we have for our own town. We also differentiated between primary and secondary service levels. And so when I say that, primary is pretty much what's covered under the contract, right? So trash and recycling, but there's a huge long host of other responsibilities that we have to manage. Everything from household hazardous waste to mattress recycling, bulky pickup, the compost program, right? And a list of other things that we have to keep aware of as they both affect the residential services, right? Affect costs. It's even though it's not in sight as the level 1 services, it is critically important to the services that we provide to the rest of the community. We also had an update and evaluation from all the town directors, so that would be Max and Gino, regarding what are the needs for the larger contributors. So if we look at the schools, we look at the individual town buildings, they are major contributors to the trash stream. We want to make sure that they're right-sized, not just going forward to what we had from 2015. We also researched capital expenses. We're going to need new recycling containers. That is not a small amount of money. It was something that we will have to discuss, the board will have to discuss Nick will present, I'm sure, in the future, but it's something we just wanted you to be prepared for. We've been working on a skeleton RFP format using examples from other towns. Thankfully, to the cohort that we've been a part of, we have access to other contracts and other examples, pricing, and so forth. So we're not doing this in a vacuum. Again, talking about the importance of a material audit and discussing, the option of a paid second barrel as an option. So for frequent users of excess, to be able to give them an option, and it falls in particularly well with the fact that we have a potentially fully automated system. Next slide. Okay, so quickly. Right now, as we know, one container and an overthrow bag. Now, why is that important? It was critical to the fact that we have dropped 18.4% from our 2018 levels by 2024 numbers. 2025 numbers are still a little tricky because we had the strike, so we're going to come up with some way to be able to report that. But without that change that we had in 2020, we would not be here, just based upon the change of residential behavior and how they were able to move to more diversion out of the waste stream. So as we talked about, this creates a level field of service, but the bags require a manual operation by the current hauler. Of course, automation threatens to disrupt the hybrid situation, so it's critical to interview new vendors to understand how their operations can offer us a solution. There's a lot, unfortunately, that we don't know, and what I want to stress is that we want to be wary of projecting what we know now as the only way to go in the future. So that interchange is really important. Now, trash service is exempt from 30B, which means that we are, of course, allowed to be able to have those individual interviews in a internal setting, right? So that we can negotiate strategically. But new thinking is going to be required, right? Whether or not that's a second, what that fee may be for a second 35-gallon container, and even such if, it would be preferable, and this is something to have deliberation on, whether or not, how do we continue? If we just offer 2 barrels, but you don't have that option for an extra, a lot of communities have a transfer station. We do not. We've not needed a transfer station. We were very small, functionally fit, in terms of geography. We floated the idea of what, after the summer when we saw we could actually drop off trash. Well, we never knew we could do that. Actually, it worked smoother than we thought. Maybe there's an option of a, weekly micro transfer station option. I'm not saying that's a recommendation, but it's something that we've discussed as a possibility to be able to offer the community. Of course, that would have to be paid for through fees through the bags. Again, that has to be investigated. Okay. Next, please. Organics. So, Solid Waste Advisory Committee has tried to offer additional solutions. We've been asking for additional physical locations. It is a well-used and well-loved resource to have the public composting bins. But unfortunately, it's expensive. And the reason it's expensive is because the hauling costs that we already pay for through our contract, right, don't transfer to Black Earth. Black Earth is a really marvelous company. I have not a single bad thing to say about it, but just the infrastructure costs for Black Earth to do their job costs twice to 3 times as much for both individual residents on a per pound basis. Mm-hmm. So what we've seen is that other communities have been able to implement organics, and I'm not saying necessarily composting, but there's other things that can be done organically to get it out of the waste stream through the same vendor that they contract with. And it is something of high interest, certainly, that I think could offer the town benefit, right, by combining some of those, as well as I'm not saying that I know this for a fact, but it's a hunch and something that I certainly want to investigate, is that if we are rail carring, right, a million pounds of trash to somewhere in the Carolinas versus being able to transfer organics locally, is there's some net savings. This is something that I think is worthy of investigating, particularly as we have pretty good control of our waste stream, right? Because we have the 35-gallon. And I think it would offer potentially a nuanced option to even having the need for a second overage bag. If we can offer composting on the same day that we offer, community-wide as the trash pickup. It is just something to investigate.
Just for clarity's sake.
Please.
So is that require a second barrel for the
Yeah.
composting?
Yeah.
So we're, the individual is doing the separation?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. It comes down to what the vendor can offer, the programming that they have, and price.
Okay.
These
But
are
it does
unknown, and these are
exist-
part of the interview and RFP process.
But it does exist locally, that type of,
We know, and Brian, you can speak maybe more to this, but we did reach out to Hamilton and Wenham. They are contracted through Casella, right, that they
They're
have.
the only ones that do it right now.
okay.
So I'll leave that as kind of a feather, as a thought, as something we've been considering. So that covers that piece of the slide of organics. Okay, so recycling bins. This would be, I think, certainly an area of deliberation in terms of the service level that we want to offer the community. Currently we offer unlimited recycling in a variety of different we have no restriction necessarily on the containers that the individuals use.
Right.
If we go to fully automated, clearly we're going to have a requirement for a standardized container. So conventional wisdom is you go to a 60-gallon cart, a 96-gallon cart, and then the next question is there a savings to the community if we can reduce our hauling fees by going to every other week by offering a larger container? And I mean, this is certainly something that we are going to be asking in the interview process. It becomes a question to set policy, which lies at the select board level. And I think it might be a reasonable idea, just a suggestion. As we talk about this in public view, we get feedback from the community as to budgetary, service levels, and the re-education timeline that we would need to have to go back to the community to explain and what changes are going to come, as opposed to I think one of the things we learned a couple of years ago is just flipping the switch is a difficult thing to do. Right?
If I could just jump in.
Please.
In the conversation with Republic, with this as an example of a change in service that they had with communities, Reading, Watertown were the two that they mentioned that have done it recently. They went to the 96-gallon container, kept weekly, and spent a full year, the first year of a 5-year contract, with the education, explaining how and what it would mean that was different and how people should be thinking differently about. So this would not be, I just want to underline what Wayne said, a change like this would not be a rip the Band-Aid off July 1st. A change like this would be, we would ask for maybe 4 years of the every other week pricing and 1 year of maintain a high level of service away. We're all used to getting it now, and we will really socialize and educate the community on why and how we're doing it going forward, if that was the policy decision that was made.
Is there any experience with state grants for recycling bins? Have we investigated that?
Yes. Previously, there have been federal grants, and there have been private industry grants. Federally, that money, I don't have to go too much further. It's not widely available for these types of programs. There is a private industry grant that has historically been able to offer upwards of $15 per container. It is my understanding, and Brian, you can certainly weigh in on this. I don't know how much longer that program will exist or does exist.
Yeah, that would be through the recycling partnership grants. Last I've spoken to them, they are somewhat phasing it out and focusing their attention elsewhere, but they are still accepting applicants for it. And then as for state grants, there's no explicit grant for recycling carts right now, although using the recycling dividends program funds, an eligible expense is recycling carts. The purchases based off how much Swampscott gets per year and the size of the purchase of carts, it wouldn't be a huge dent in it, but that's one eligible place to use recycling dividends program, which you guys earn points for with things such as your pay-as-you-throw program.
But just, I mean, for relative amount, that's around $15,000
$1,000 a year.
So it's
Yeah.
it'd be a small impact, and that money is actually used for other things within the budget, other recycling programs. So that said, it's a conversation that needs to be had, but it's not an insignificant amount of money. That money can be potentially financed through the vendor, but generally the cohort and other communities, and DEP recommends that we do own them. And so that, however, at the end of the day, owning them as opposed to, that's again another conversation.
Maybe one thing to add recycling in a separate sense is historically, and the next grants will get released in the next couple of weeks, but there's also not a curbside option, but sometimes grants for compactors. You guys don't have a transfer station, so it might be difficult, but so there is some drop-off equipment. Grants are typically offered year to year.
So in other words, if our DPW yard had, this is the cardboard recycling bin, this is the, I don't know, what else we were saying?
Yeah, so for example, if you were making that switch to every other week recycling, perhaps having more diversion options at your, exactly.
At a party.
So the cost impact, we looked through Combi. We were looking at around $60 per container at the large quantities that we're looking at, roughly 5,000 residents. It's not
300 grand.
Yeah, it's not an insignificant amount. Just something in your budgetary process and the capital allocations just to be aware of. Okay, next, vendor interview process. So I'll let Nick and Gino, maybe if you want to kind of give us a little more detail on that, but just to kind of highlight the cohort as recommended, doing an interview process to know and understand what we may not know and what opportunities there are to improve efficiencies internally to us. And one of the things that we recognize is that every town has a slight different variation.
Nuance, yeah.
It is nuanced, right? And so, yes, we can talk about Marblehead and Swampscott. Marblehead has a transfer station, right? It's a huge
difference,
impact to how the contract works. So that said, that's why it's important to ask those individual questions. Again, the old contract is favorable to us, but we just don't want to be in an information silo. And so I did include a list of questions that we've developed in your packets, just to be familiar with. And I'll let you comment further.
The interviews that we intend, we've spoken to Republic, and sort of going forward, Wayne is, as we had talked about in the meeting, welcome to join, but we're trying to schedule it around Gino and I and our work days. So we'll see who from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee will be in there, but we have Republic, Waste Management, Casella, and Capital, and then Win and G Mello Disposal. We have gotten feedback from different DPW directors on some of them. Mello is one that, may or may not be someone we move forward with based on that feedback, but everyone else, we're looking to have those initial conversations and understand, where they are in something like automation. Pretty much everyone's going there. 2 years ago when other communities were looking at it, it was a little bit more of not a question, but there were opportunities out there to have manual in more communities. The initial conversation we had with Republic was, there would be a period in which they would be preparing from a capital investment standpoint to have the trucks and everything, but they are not offering 5-year contracts that have manual. So I think we can anticipate that everyone will be in a similar boat, either automation from day one or automation at some point early in the contract and for the rest of the contract, for all of the reasons that Wayne outlined. So those conversations, we have, I think 4 or 5 of them will be complete by the end of next week, and we have 2 that are outstanding that we're trying to schedule. And so this is to understand what they're offering, understand, as Wayne said, things that see around the corner, things that we may not be thinking of and don't know, and it will inform the final process. This is outside of the 30B procurement as well, like legal services, so that we can have very direct discussions on price and service from the beginning and with everyone. So these are informational meetings and really useful. And, you know, we will go from there to finalize an RFP to get a price proposal that we can, as well as possible, compare apples to apples.
Is the automation likely to yield a lower cost?
I would say it's a cost avoidance. If we were to somehow find someone that could do manual, all of the other costs around the hauling and tipping continue to rise, and this would be a differentiator, not in the, you know, in the grand scheme, but in sort of what that.
You were saying is almost like there was some issue with the fact that people are all going to automation. I just wanted to make sure. I was-
A lot of communities, when they initially hear that, are concerned that it's, you know, a truck with an arm picking it up, and it's not the trash man that they see and may know over time. It's a change, and so we wanted to highlight it to make sure it doesn't come as a surprise to anyone as we move forward in the contracting.
I think there'll certainly be a change in terms of socializing the whole issue of making sure that residents know whatever the requirements of the vendor are, right? In terms of location, relative to the curb, spacing between, all those things, so
And that's a process that each vendor would take on with us. It's not something we'd be doing in a vacuum, and if you're driving through Lynn, as an example, you can see how they line up and how the separation and everything else. That's a good example right next door that they're using it already.
So we don't know definitively out of any of those contracts what the decrease has been or the cost avoidance
Not yet.
ratio is?
We haven't even asked from that. It's looking forward, what do you offer? And we will not offer manual in the case of Republic. And my expectation and belief is that if we said to others, we want a price for manual and a price for automatic, there would be a difference in price that we could articulate to you.
And Wayne, so thank you, and certainly thank you to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for all the hard work. I know you guys have been at it for what, 4 years? 5 years?
5 years.
5 years.
I had to think about that myself.
Yeah, one of the things that you've talked about over the years has really been glass in the system.
Yeah.
So can you speak a little bit more to,
Yeah.
you know, whether or not we can pull the glass out, maybe use that, maybe have the DPW as a transfer or
Yeah.
some other process to really get that tonnage down?
So, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that because it is, I thank you for bringing it up.
It's limited to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so just kind of to reset the table for glass, right? So up until maybe last year, glass was, we paid to haul it, we paid to sort it, right? Not only does it degrade the quality of the recycling material from a commodity standpoint, that's frankly not our problem particularly, but up until last year, it was going right back to the landfill. So, well, that's not a really good, efficient operation, as you would obviously imagine. So what we did find out from Republic last year is that they found a place that was using it as aggregate for concrete. Great, right? They still have a loss, but it's not at the loss as to what it would be as a tipping fee back to a landfill. So we're strategically trying to figure out, well, if we can get it out of the system altogether, great. What we can't do, unfortunately, is throw it in the trash because it is a waste ban item by the state. We'd probably be possibly better off if we did, just from a financial standpoint, because it's the heaviest piece of all of it, right, from a density standpoint. One of the things that I certainly think the audit will reveal is how much glass we have, right? And that will give us some criteria of what the impact is. You know, in a perfect world, and I brought this up with Brian asking for help, and particularly from a regional standpoint, we meet every couple of months. Brian holds a meeting with all the different North Shore communities. And it's really nice because we can talk about what our common issues are and what's going on at the state level and so on. But it's a common problem across everywhere. There has not been a state, there's no one really at the state level that's helping. We're kind of on our own, unfortunately, to be able to figure out a solution. So, yeah, I think it would benefit the town contractually, financially, if we could find a different way to divert glass. And that really comes down to asking the question to the not to the hauler, but whoever the hauler is taking it to, right? the haulers represents them, which is what are you doing with glass? And you're going to hopefully see, you know, if they actually have a home for it, right, and a direction for it, that will reflect in hopefully our tipping fees, based of course upon the audit that says that we have this percentage, this percentage, this percentage.
So this audit you've been referring to, who does that? When does that happen?
Great question.
Sounds like that has to happen soon.
Great question, yes. So the audit, the audit functionally is you take X amount of samples of the recycling stream across the community, you drop it on the floor, you take it, you weigh it, right? It's really that straightforward, but there's 8 or 10 different categorizations of what that is, right? Everything from cardboard to glass, to 3 different types of plastics, right? Different colors of plastics, different colors of glass. It gets detailed. But at the end of the day, we need to know before we pull the trigger and pay for an audit. I feel it's important that the vendor has to say, yeah, I'll accept those numbers, right? Because otherwise, I mean,
It's going to be for no good.
it's not inexpensive to do. And we just want to make sure that the vendor themselves will honor whatever that number is based upon the pricing. Because their entire financial proposal is based on that, right?
So an example of a community, again, Reading went through a long process to develop an RFP. They ended up staying with Republic. They did an audit. In speaking to their assistant TA or TM, she was saying that they accepted it as part of they all did, everyone that replied to the RFP, but also said that they would be doing their own analysis and audits throughout the first 2 years to make sure what was provided matched with obvious discussions if it didn't. So it's something that's important, but it is because of the blended values being different now that it's not just we get something back for recycling and the economy around that has changed. They are also more attuned to it than perhaps they would have been in the past.
How much did that audit cost?
$25,000, I believe, in Reading.
There are grants for that?
It's also an eligible expense for recycling dividends program funds.
It's the same bucket of money.
Same bucket that we're going to use anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of straws in that cup.
Yeah,
That's a way to say it.
I will say a good one, something rare about Swampscott that I think would make us audit advantageous is your contamination rate is kind of a strange, very high holdover from back in the time when audits weren't that relevant. The pricing, the commodity structure around recycling was very different when we were shipping more of our commodities out of our nation. So right now I think you guys, kind of have a 30% contamination rate. It's a fake number.
It's a fake number.
But were that to carry over into modern pricing mechanisms, you guys would be paying close to double, sometimes quadruple what other towns are paying in contamination. So that 30% would definitely be something.
25,000 is worth it in a way because it should drive down our costs a lot to get a more accurate number.
Yeah.
But I have to think that the companies responding are getting a little smart to that, right?
They've always probably been smart
Of course,
to that.
right, so what really is the value of it?
The number of contaminants, we get a monthly number, right? We get a report back, and it comes always as contamination 30.0000%. It's
Yeah.
But
It's not a real number.
It would be valuable because if we don't do this audit, then we're going to be at 30%.
No, not necessarily.
Well, you're stuck with whatever. It depends if these new contracts, if they'd still want to honor that 30%,
depends on
or
what
if
they agree
you'd come in and say that we're not going to do that. Even without an audit, the 30% is high. That's far above state average.
Which
So
is
hopefully
around 10-ish%.
10 to 15, as low as 5 in communities.
I would think you still have to get them to accept the numbers, right? And
Sure.
if they all say no, then you
If you don't do the audit, then you have to just hope that they just say, oh, the average around here is, and you start that.
So one change from an execution standpoint, right, that we have to be aware of is right now there is no penalty. Most communities have penalties, right? So if they see high levels of contamination rate, it's generally put into the contract as to what that fee, reciprocity, whatever you want to call it, is. Again, we currently don't have that. Now, the communities that do have that also have an active employee or somebody in the system that's actually going and auditing.
Recycling, please.
So in other words, if you're recycling XYZ that shouldn't be recycled, you're getting a fee back, right? You're getting assessed X
But
dollars for,
at the macro
recycling.
scale, yeah. So what other communities do is they have an, recycling manager. One of their responsibilities is literally to
go through.
kind of do a micro audit around town at a systematic level, and then give the oopsie stickers
Yeah.
to them as a community reminder.
And just broadly, as far as staffing for this goes, it has been within public health. We have had conversations, Jeff, Gino, and I, about the fact that it would likely make more sense to sit within DPW because of the bandwidth that exists in staffing there. So I just wanted to highlight that that's something that we're already exploring that may, provide the potential to have someone that could occasionally,
like a recycling.
more occasionally be
coordinator.
out to do that type of coordination or choose a neighborhood a month or something. But we're trying to balance that to make sure that it does have the support that's needed.
So are you saying now we're going to see Gino going through our recycling?
Yes.
Brian, I have a question. Are there any communities in the Commonwealth that do remove glass from their solid waste?
I'm not sure of ones that explicitly remove it, as in say we don't want you to put glass in the recycling because it's all single stream typically.
Right.
There is some, for example, Bedford, for example, will have a very effective glass drop off at their transfer stations, so similar to the other diversion opportunities. So that is pulling glass out of the recycling stream.
But they have a functioning transfer station.
Yes.
And they divert it outside of.
And then they get a higher value, and they divert and they sell it for more than it would be worth just.
As part of it, yeah.
So wouldn't we be able to structure an RFP with, give us a cost for doing this, right? For removing glass from our way? Couldn't we specify that in an RFP to see?
In terms of removing it, as we're talking about diverting it with a physical location, I'm not sure that that's realistic for us in terms of space at the yard, never mind. Like a physical location to have collection is a challenge for us.
Right.
I mean,
One of
No,
the challenges that
but-
we realized.
But didn't we actually, I'm sorry, Wayne,
Yes,
but
sir.
didn't we actually kind of show that, if you had a once a month, whatever it is, bring your glass, for whatever we get out of it, it's better than nothing, right? I mean, you could have one dumpster there. I mean, whether or not it's Republic that's picking it up or whatever, I mean, is that not
So you're like,
crazy?
on the metal drop-off day, you're saying?
Yeah.
another-
Right.
Yeah, why couldn't you do that?
Wouldn't it-
You already
so,
have your
I mean,
staff in place.
Right. Just a thought,
Yeah. It could work. It's something I never considered, to be honest with you, but, yeah, we already
I don't
use
know that it would
styrofoam,
be-
we're doing metal. The one thing I would definitely say is it has to be monitored.
Yeah.
We can't just have a drop-off site without it being
Yeah,
monitored.
be a free flow,
Absolutely,
yeah.
Right, because that's the one thing I learned doing the recycling for the 12 weeks. Because,
People
I shouldn't say
bring
it's
it in.
because, but my interpretation is because they have a smaller barrel, people try to get rid of the stuff with their recycling.
yeah, absolutely.
That was what I was actually about to say.
Yeah, just trying to say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
But just for the purpose of, when you're structuring an RFP, I mean, you have that in there, maybe that, they recognize the cost savings with the rest of the submission, right? That's just a thought.
Would we then obviously take out the extra expense of the sorting, right? It would just be a direct transfer to, or we could find a place.
Maybe there's a third party somehow that,
Yeah.
And I could connect
So-
you with Bedford.
Before we get too far down the road of
The
this
rabbit.
boutique model, I would like to, part of why I wanted to have Wayne come in front of you all tonight was to get some high-level direction so that when we're having these conversations, we're obviously learning, but if we're moving into an RFP or drafting of any kind, I think my initial feedback to Wayne back in October, November, whenever the first one I was at, was at the same level of service or better, and we are not price agnostic. So while we would love to have compost, we would like to have glass drop-off, we need to understand what those costs look like because we are very sensitive to the overall price. And my number one priority is that, 99 out of 100 homes that get their trash out at 7 a.m., the barrel's empty at the end of the day and can pull it in. Like that is and I'm happy to take redirection from that, but from a sort of customer service standpoint and price standpoint, it is one of the most significant expenses and certainly one of the most significant increases we anticipate between this year and next fiscal year. So we just wanted to get a sense from you all, like, in prioritization, like is compost and diverting glass super important, or is it a nice to have as opposed
well,
to
I
a
think,
must have?
I'm thinking of it more, will it help us decrease costs,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's kind of twofold.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's more like one of those nice-to-have extras. I'm speaking of it as, will this help us offset costs?
If we did that, would it lower the?
Yeah, that's my
proposal?
thought process
Yeah.
there. My number one thought, my number one priority is, I can't see an option where we would not allow people to buy a second barrel. I don't think that's even, for me, that's not even a
So
question.
you, it was a double negative.
No, okay.
The option of purchasing a second barrel should be an automatic for us, an
And-
automatic consideration.
And that was the first discussion Gino and I had with Republic. If we're fully automated, you're talking about hybrid, if there's any bag floating around. And it was absolutely, and they recommend,
Yeah.
if there's, frequent flyers of that program, it's a barrel that covers the cost, basically.
Absolutely.
And it replaces the bag, and they just have two barrels at that home.
Right.
There's certainly, and we had use cases, and you could see it around the holidays. There is a point in the year that we certainly have to figure out what that looks like and how to do it, but the real meat of it in
Right.
50 weeks out of the year, it's, if you're a frequent flyer, we need you to do the second barrel, not find a way to support that
Totally.
use case that's, 250 out of 5,000 homes.
And one thing to note there would be to maintain a pay-as-you-throw program you would want to have an annual fee beyond just the initial purchase of the barrel.
Yes.
That will be one of my
Yeah.
perspectives is you guys have been such a waste leader. That 20% reduction is one of the best in the state over the last 4 years. So finding ways in this automation to maintain that. And if you look at an example of Topsfield, recently went to that exact program. I think they're doing $175 for that second barrel. So the pricing's a whole nother
Well,
thing.
we're doing it right now and just not providing
doing
the
it with
barrels. So
bags.
people are buying multiple bags, and then the bags are sitting on top of the barrel or sitting on the, so by just saying, it should equal whatever, I think each barrel really holds 2 bags, so whatever 2 bags cost, they're over 50.
Yeah, I think we can come up with some proposed algorithmic
Yeah.
numbers that make sense in terms of,
It's pretty
the-
simple.
the fair share of
Right.
whatever it is that.
But we-
Basically, if it's a service,
Right,
how much is that service?
Right, how much is it worth?
Cost,
Right,
and
right.
be responsible, but the resident should be responsible for whatever that additional service is. Just the fact that we're offering it is important.
So just from hearing what you two at least had said, it's make sure that we are offering these things that may lower our cost and are also advantageous from an environmental standpoint, that we're separating, but composting. But all of these things, it's weigh them in tandem, not we just must have compost or must have diversion.
Yeah.
It's how do these impact your proposal that would lower our costs for the community or avoid costs, whatever the phrasing that someone may want to use to describe it. Is that an accurate representation?
Yes, I mean, for me, from my perspective, it's, and how do we lessen the burden a little bit on the resident, right? If they're gonna have to pay for it, at least there's a convenience, right? You don't have to go out and buy blue bags. You have the option of buying a second barrel, which is more convenient for you. I mean, it's obviously at an additional cost, but providing that option is,
Okay.
my thought anyway.
Yes, and just want to make sure that the sum total of that isn't, it's a nice cherry on top, nice to have, we'll worry about it as a secondary issue within the negotiation, but I would like that be the composting and the glass be kind of center in terms of our ability to kind of drive down the tonnage. I don't quite understand the mechanics of, nor do I think we need to get into it right now, but there is a dynamic here. Some people, they might want a second barrel, but, if we're doing automation, we can figure out a way like Wenham or whatever it was, where the second barrel is your compost thing. Does that then obviate the need to have a second barrel, but now you're getting this instead? So I think there's a lot of, work that needs to be done to kind of push that agenda within the conversations so that it's not, just take the simplest path and then, oh, hey, can you throw the compost? I'm not saying you do that, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's important to have that feedback. We're trying to kind of reset the table, share, just from an advisory standpoint, sharing what we know to this point, being able to come back now that we've everyone's kind of all reasonably on the same page, being able to come back with what some of those opportunities are, get further feedback on a more regular basis, increase the cadence level of our communication with you over the coming months.
And I won't say it's like my personal requirement or anything that, a hill to die on, but I really don't think an every other week recycling schedule is that advantageous to most people in this town. That's my personal thought. I think recycling should be a weekly thing.
Okay.
Right, because I just don't think that enough homes in Swampscott have that storage capability. Right, if you don't have a garage or you don't have somewhere to store it, I mean, I think if what I recycle on a weekly basis, it's a huge, big, plus one, right, and that's a week. So I don't know, but that's just my thought, is because I know you mentioned maybe going to every other week for recycling.
It's a much larger barrel than we have for trash right now, but that is something that they've suggested as a way to, again,
Wait a minute, are we talking about trash or recycling?
I'm talking about
Recycling.
recycling.
We're not talking-
I was just comparing it to the barrel that you all have
Well, that
in your
is
homes
the,
currently, the 35.
mine is bigger than a regular trash barrel, so people have different sizes.
Right, I know.
Even though they have the small one, that the one we give out is a small little guy. But if you look around or drive around on a weekly basis, you'll see people are recycling a
The
ton.
most expensive part of the contract is the hauling part of it.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to reduce cost there
Yeah,
is not insignificant.
sure.
And that could certainly take a bite out of the extra $300,000 of capital cost that we need.
Yeah,
That's
no, that's
the
fair.
feedback.
That's fair, yeah.
the feedback that we're
Yeah.
looking for.
Okay.
It is I think
And I think we'll see that more as we get further along, but that's just my initial,
okay.
We should probably see
thought?
the options.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yep.
in the cost.
You know, one thing I really want to see is I want to see a timetable on, what our benchmarks, not benchmarks, what are,
Deadlines, calendar,
yeah,
right?
what are the dates we have to hit?
Yep.
And
So we're already in January, it's
I
gonna
think
come
that's
up quicker than
pretty
you
much
think.
it, because we're done with this contract the end of June.
Yeah.
And what date do we want to have a new contract in place?
Yeah,
Just a timeline, that's all.
So what happens come July 1? Does service end, or do
Right.
do we roll over month to month? How does that?
Yeah,
does that
so
work?
they are interested in obviously staying with us. They have expressed, as of right now, that they would prefer we're signing up for 5 years with them again. So that's an ongoing discussion.
Okay.
And we can just have Gino do it again, No, I'm totally kidding about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back. I think it might be useful if we were to provide as part of your packets, the calendar or something like that, so that you can have the information, even if we don't have another discussion of this depth necessarily in the immediate term, and then we can plan to come back with the advisory committee later on, if that works for you.
Okay. And also, just so the public knows, that the Solid Waste Advisory Committee meets once a month. You have public comment.
We always have public
You
comment
always,
available.
engage with anybody that wants to come in and chit chat. People-
Absolutely, we definitely welcome public comment, and
Uh-huh.
if there's any questions the community has, you can email swac@swampscott.ma.gov.
Great. Thank you very much.
Big thank you, Wayne.
Wayne,
all that
thanks
work,
for
'cause
your
nobody
hard work.
really wants to
Thank
do
you
it.
both.
Thank you.
Brian, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Of course, anytime.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so we will go back to our discussion of Pine Street improvements MOU.
So if I could just frame it to start, we have had ongoing discussions with Gino, Marzi, the DBH team, consultants on both sides, and the ZBA.
DBH is B'nai B'rith.
Yes, sorry, the housing developer. And we've come to a point where we just want to give you an update on where we believe the conditions will be as a part of the ZBA potential approval. And it's been shifting just from last week to this week, so I thought Marzi could give an update on sort of where we are. Just again, so you all are on the same page in the end. I don't think we'll need, this is an informational update and any questions you may have as opposed to any action from the board.
Can you just start, Marzi, with just like kind of where we're at in the process overall, like where is the ZBA and the overall process?
Absolutely, happy to do so. So good evening. I just wanted to acknowledge that we do have members from the B'nai B'rith team. We have Susan Gittleman, the executive director, Yara Verges, she's the project manager, and I believe Holly Grace was there. I'm not sure if you see her there. So just wanted to acknowledge their presence. So first, maybe we'll start way back when. B'nai B'rith is the project developer. As you know, they submitted an application to the town, to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a comprehensive permit that would allow or request the construction of 41 units of affordable housing at Pine Street called Veterans Crossing, thank you. So that process began on August 22nd. The first public meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding this project occurred on September 16th. ZBA, as part of that process, retained a consultant or an assistant to retain a consultant or an assistant to allow them to assist them with the process. Because as you know, comprehensive permit is something that's very well regulated by the state. It's a state statute that we need to comply. The local zoning board of appeals has 180 days to complete the process, meaning that they open the initial meeting and they have to close within 180 days. Then after that, they have about 40 additional days to render an opinion or decision regarding the project. So just to kind of walk you through the process, we have had about 5 meetings right now, or the ZBA has held about 5 meetings. The 180 days will expire on February 18th, and the ZBA should render a decision by March 30th. So that's based on the timeline, the 180 days, and the statute, how the process should follow up. So as Nick has stated, ZBA has been working with a consultant as well as a peer consultant. The town was able to retain Vicky Masson with Gino's assistance to really assist us with review some of the engineering work as part of the process. They are working for the town, but the developer is paying the fee to review the project. Vicky is somebody who is probably known to all of you. She's a former town employee and has amazing institutional knowledge about the infrastructure that surrounds the project area. And at the last ZBA meeting, the ZBA had some concerns about the replacement of the culvert. As you know, the culvert replacement has to take place in order for the project to be constructed. The town, or we had worked with B'nai B'rith Housing to secure grant funding through the one-stop program from the state for the relocation of the culvert. We were successful in the grant, while we received $750,000 towards the replacement of the culvert. The estimates that we received from the engineering firms were about like $750, sort of around that price point. The estimates for the project also included some contingencies, engineering fees, remediation work, as well as professional services for a consultant. So that total number came in at $758. During the ZBA process, the Zoning Board of Appeals wanted to assure that that there's sufficient funding in order to be able to relocate the culvert, and they were concerned about the fact that they did not want the town, or they wanted clarification in terms of who is the entity that will be responsible for any cost overruns. So that sort of brought us here. We had an internal discussion. We continue to, look at the numbers in terms of the estimates, but obviously estimates were based on previous funding. But at the same time, we have secured, or we had allocated about $123,000 in contingency fees as part of the grant application. So we feel confident. I think Gino had an opportunity also to take a look at the estimates, and I think that we all agree that right now that there is sufficient funding. To address the concerns from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the developer stated that they would be able to contribute some funding towards it. So last week we weren't quite sure what the amount was. This week, we have heard from the development team, and they will be able to contribute up to $100,000 in additional funding as additional contingency or as a match if needed, if the project were to, if there'll be any kind of cost overruns. So I think that's the sort of a brief update of where we are in the process. We will have our next ZBA meeting will be held on January 20th.
So Nick, per our conversation earlier, if you just want to frame this up, like, is a vote necessary from us for us tonight?
No. Yep.
And then can you, or Marzi, just frame what the understanding was in the initial agreements with B'nai B'rith about whose responsibility this would be? Are we starting from this was unknown, or was there an understanding to begin with, which we're now specifying further? Just trying, I have no idea what the LDA says in this.
All right, so I'm sorry, I should say probably before we go into the sort of like how we almost maybe got here, is that at the last meeting, last Friday, we have held a meeting with the project team and our peer reviewer. And the ZBA just wanted to see assurances where, you know, there would be an agreement in place that would assure that the contingency is there, that there's some funding overruns to cover any additional cost. And that's where our discussion came in about either an MOU, memorandum of agreement, that the developer will pay for the cost overruns, or if that could become part of the comprehensive permits and a condition that would stay, that developer will pay, you know, up to X amount of dollars, like the $100,000 that they're agreeing to pay, or any cost overruns. In regards to kind of going back, the relocation of the culvert initially was not, it's not part of the land disposition agreement, was not part of the lease, because at that point, if you recall, when we were looking to have the 4-story structure, the massing of the building was a little bit less. And maybe at that point, I'm not really sure if we knew what the impact to the culvert might be. I think that there was some discussion maybe that the culvert will have to be relocated. But I think as the project advanced and there's additional work that was being done, and then the structure was redesigned to be a 3-story structure, therefore it impacted the culvert more, and then we needed to be relocated.
And on the question of action tonight, when we were unsure if we would do an MOU, which at one point was where we were leaning, versus the idea of it being a condition.
Of the permit.
Correct. That was when I wanted to make sure that we had the ability to vote if necessary, so that clear direction could be provided. And I think in the past, in talking to the chair a little bit, she had mentioned on something like this, there were sometimes like 2 members designated to say, like, we all agree on the idea, but these 2 members will be responsible for the final review, or something along those lines. That was the type of thing we were thinking. That's no longer necessary, because in these conversations, we're talking about as a condition of the permit, and then also highlighting for the chair of the ZBA and the board itself that this is something that we are tracking on the staff side. You know, as they move through the building permit process and everything, that's where community development and Rich's team are in close contact to say all of these conditions have been met, we can't move forward, or they have been met and we can. So this is providing more certainty to the CBA that on the staff side we're paying attention, and I think both the development team and us are comfortable with this number based on the contingencies built into the original grant application and the money that they've pledged should it be necessary beyond that.
That all sounds great, but is it theoretically possible that this could come in at $1 million total, and the contingency and the 100,000 wouldn't be enough, and then therefore what?
Theoretically possible, I couldn't really answer. That's accepting the premise that something could be any cost, sure, yes.
Okay, well, not any cost,
Well,
but I mean, it's,
I think.
We have a conservative engineering estimate that was put together, reviewed by the peer review team, and both the development team and our staff are on board that we think we're on target.
that's great.
I don't know what more we can do with any development project than have peer review, our outside consultant and our team internally looking at it. I'm not.
I understand, but I'm just
But
stating.
there is a bidding process, so I guess to answer your question, we won't know definitively until we put it out to bid, get the bid prices back. But as Nick said, and we all said, I'm fairly confident that we're gonna come in at or below that price, because Hancock, who did the estimate, he was conservative with that, built in a contingency, and now we have an extra $100,000, so. But definitively, we'll know once we put it out to bid. And the town's gonna be putting it out to bid because the grant came to us, so it's essentially gonna be our project to oversee.
Is it normal for the ZBA to be involved in the finances on the permit? I just don't remember, like, things like this coming up with the ZBA and excuse me, with the Westcott or any other.
I have not experienced that. I think that a lot of times they might look at the infrastructure and request some changes that would impact the project, but.
Right, so they would make a request for a change on the infrastructure. But.
Yeah, I can speak on that. The Avery, I can't speak on the Westcott because I'm I don't need to remember, I'm not familiar with it, but I know on the Avery project on Essex Street, the ZBA did come in and say, we want the developer to give the town a $50,000 for improvements to the area for the town to use at their discretion. And the developer agreed to it.
Right, well, hold on one second. So they did do that for the Avery. They actually, for the Concordia, the ZBA asked Paradise for additional monies to beautify the sidewalks with landscaping and things like that. But this is a little bit different. To me, they're asking for an MOU. We already have an LDA and a ground lease signed, so
So when I spoke to Heather Roman, because I am the liaison to the ZBA, I don't think she was requesting an MOU. I think it was a suggestion. I think that it was just an assurance for them to understand that if there is an overage, they were, checking their box and doing their due diligence and saying, if there happens to be an overage, do you guys have the money to pay for it? Where's it going to come from, right? So now that we know that it really is just like solidifying that the developer is on board with providing the financial assistance, which I think is $100,000, you just said?
That's correct.
I don't think she was necessarily, I thought Heather was really great, and I don't really think she was suggesting or demanding an MOU. I think that was just, something that could be done, or maybe had been done in the past, that she, was familiar with. I don't know.
And
but I don't feel like she was forcing that issue.
I don't think she was forcing it. I think that was one of the options that was
Yeah.
looked at as they've had this, and that's why we've gone from that idea to now as a part of the condition of the permit.
Okay. I have another question here, is I'm concerned about the time frame, only because I know the funding rounds are coming up, and they're coming up soon, and I went and looked at our original scheduling, and it looks like funding rounds start at the end of February, possibly in March. And if you're saying there's a possibility the ZBA will have their comprehensive permit, completed by 3/30, isn't it putting us in risk of not getting funding in this first funding round?
No, so maybe I can just go back a little bit more. We have been working sort of in between the ZBA's meetings. The project team, our town staff, as well as our peer reviewers, we have tried to address any kind of outstanding issues that were identified during the ZBA meetings.
Right.
And I feel like coming into the meeting, into the January meeting right now, it seems like we're really addressed most of the concerns that the ZBA has had. We just met this past Friday. I felt like we had a great meeting. The engineering team is providing some of the additional backup data that was requested. And I'm not sure if you had a discussion with Heather.
I did. I had a lengthy discussion with her on Sunday, and I don't feel like she did not give me the impression that there was anything significant holding it up, or that there would be any difficulty. I mean, we did talk about the culvert and the relocation, and an increase to the water line, or the size of the water.
Yeah, and that's something else that
has also been discussed with Benet, as zoning, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't think from me, I spoke to her for a while, and she did actually summarize it in an email as well that I did send to Nick. I don't feel like there are significant things that zoning is concerned about that would delay it.
Is there any possibility of expediting it, getting it going a little quicker?
At the end of this month, I believe,
Yes,
right?
but just to let you know, in order to kind of expedite, because the meeting or the public hearing should close by February 18th. And then the March deadline is the time for the ZBA to issue its decision. This is a very large project, so sometimes writing the decision could take a little while longer. The chairperson has authorized the consultant that's helping the ZBA to work with the attorney for the developer to really try to get all the facts that as you read the decision, there's a lot of sort of like basic information or project information that has to be included, because most of the decisions are several pages long. So they already are working on, they'll work on it to assure that all of the facts are already in there, that both of the parties agree on them, and then this way we could expedite the decision, the issuance of the decision, so then we could start the 20 days.
To comment, if you wish, on any of this? Is she?
Here.
Grace with the Neighborhood Housing. I work as a project manager. So first of all, thank you, Nick and Marcy, for facilitating us being at this meeting, and we're grateful for the time you're spending on this. And I guess part of it was trying to keep momentum. We are feeling like this project has a lot of very positive momentum, not only in the permitting process that's underway, but also on the financing front. So I think Marcy summed it up pretty well tonight. We are comfortable with the thought of having some, I'm assuming, a long comprehensive permit decision by the ZBA, including a commitment for us to fund up to $100,000 in overruns for this culvert work, among other conditions that they impose. It's our preference that our legal agreement with the town is the one that already exists, our LDA, our land development agreement that we have with you, Town of Swampscott. That's our guiding document with the town. And we have been making a lot of progress and working diligently to be able to make this vision for 100% affordable senior veterans housing a reality. We're grateful for the partnership with the town, and also thankful for the opportunity to give you an update tonight. So I think it's been consistent. Timeliness is very important also, and we are threading the needle a bit because the state funding deadline for this upcoming round, I believe, is March 13th, which means we need to submit a full application, including our final approvals with that application. In December, we submitted a pre-application to the state agency, EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, that allocates the funding that we need. We have not heard back from the state whether we are eligible or allowed to submit a full application. We are acting as if we are going to be able to, and then our permits will be in place by then. And it's our hope that working with town staff and the town's consultant that will hopefully have a pretty good draft decision that the ZBA, should they feel comfortable, could vote on as soon as they feel good about it.
So Holly, to Mary Ellen's question, is it really critical that you receive a full decision from ZBA before that mid-March date you just gave?
It's my understanding that it's a threshold condition to have, I guess, zoning in place, so permits in place and finalized. So this round for funding is highly competitive. There are many developments that are proposed across the state for affordable housing, so we're competing. We think we've got a great project, and readiness to proceed is a strong criteria for the state. So the ability to prove that we have our comprehensive permit in place, the expiration of all appeals period, and it's filed with the town clerk, I believe those are the steps, is important for the state to see, so that when we get the financing allocated to us, we can close and begin construction as soon as possible.
But you don't need all those steps, the appeal period and all that, to be done by mid-March, right? Clearly, that's not going to happen.
This has been the hope.
Am I missing something?
Well, it looks like we've got a problem, because with the dates that Marcy's giving us and with the dates that Holly's giving us, we're 2 weeks out.
So go ahead, Holly.
Doesn't even include the appeals.
So Martin, did you want me to, I believe Marcy's dates are the outside dates. We've discussed the possibility with the board, and they seem open to it, to have some special meetings outside of our typical monthly meeting schedule. So we're working with a mix of optimism and pragmatism on this, in hopes that we still have a spot to compete in this year's funding round.
So Holly, if you guys are to miss the funding deadline of March 13th, 2026, when would the next funding round be?
there's a, it's.
I don't think we would qualify for the mini round, so I think it would be a year. Because we wouldn't have eligibility.
Why not?
Yeah, the state funding round is a yearly process. It's either issued in February, it happens to be later this year, March. The state does sometimes have what they call a high readiness round for special projects that, for one reason or another, get invited. It's really out of our hands. It's really up to the state to invite into any round, whether it's the winter round, which is the one we're talking about, the 2026 winter round, or any high readiness type rounds that they may, at their discretion, initiate. So, don't know the answer, but the answer could be that it might be a year.
Okay, but if, in the event that it's not a year, there's the potential that you could, that there could be a round, but you would have to be specifically invited. Just to be clear.
Right.
Do you always have to get invited into these rounds?
The high readiness round.
Okay.
Right, Susan?
No, we have to, I mean, the state funding process has a pre-application, and then as a result of, in every round, there's a pre-application, which is a screening process for the state. And then as a result of their analysis of the pre-application, we would, developers are invited into the rounds.
So what I'm hearing from Holly is that you're in communication with the ZBA, and the ZBA is open to having additional meetings or trying their best to accelerate this whole process. It doesn't look like there's any major hiccups going on here, and that it's just a pretty tight schedule. Am I right?
Yeah, but I'd like to understand more what the, let's work backward then, like, just to be clear, what's the appeal timeframe?
20 days.
20 days.
So it's a standard. Once a decision, once a planning board or zoning board of appeals decision is filed with the town clerk, it starts a 20-day appeal process, where during that time, the developer can't.
Is that from the day of the vote of the CBA, or the detailed opinion is made public?
When the opinion is made.
It's filed with the clerk, so it would be most likely the morning after the decision is completed. Like, if the zoning board.
The detailed decision will be available the morning after the vote?
Well, they're working
No.
on this.
So, hold on. I'm saying if they were to approve the final decision that they are currently working on with both the attorney for the developer and our consultant, I'm just saying it wouldn't, the clock starts when it's filed with the town clerk. That's all I was saying. So whenever they finish, if they vote on it, it wouldn't be at 8:40 or 8:04 on Wednesday night. It would be Thursday morning, the clock starts. as
I
an
know,
example.
but isn't it even more than that though, Nick? 'Cause they vote on whatever, let's say January 30th, then they got to write up the opinion, right?
Which is what they're working on now.
I understand. Do you think it's going to be ready the next morning? The opinion's going to be completely ready? They're voting on 100%? The opinion's completely,
It could be fairly quick, because we already identified the sort of contingencies or issues that we have had. We have a chart with those items that they could just be plugged into the decision. But we're really trying to address most of them outside of the ZBA process, and this way, there are not a lot of contingencies.
okay.
All right, so the opinion, so the expiration for the opinion is 2/18. That's what you're saying?
The 2/18 is the end of the public meeting process. So we have 180 days for the ZBA to open the meeting and to close the meeting. So ZBA has to, by statute, has to close their public process, a public comment period, and the public meeting by February 18th.
But they could do it earlier.
No later
Do it
than,
any
correct. They
earlier.
can do it
Okay.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be 118 days. Right now, 180 days is on 2/18, based on when the.
Has Heather said anything like, we're looking like we're going to be able to finish this on 1/15?
So I would, I don't have an answer to that, but I would caution that this is well within the control of the ZBA. So these are
Okay.
sort of questions that we can be asking, but it's their responsibility and right to do what they would like.
Yeah.
I think they've been very good partners in helping us to
Right.
prioritize and identify issues that they would like addressed, and that's what we've been working on. I just want to make sure that we all recognize that this is part of what, they do on behalf of the town.
Yeah, but what we do on behalf of the town also is making sure a project gets done. So that's why I'm trying to really understand the timeline, so that everybody else who's watching this can understand the timeline. And what I'm hearing is, it's a tight timeline.
Yeah.
And I just want to have, of course I appreciate the ZBA. That's a very hardworking committee, very, very hardworking committee. I just want to have a pretty good idea. I don't want to be.
So I just want to say, I am happy to reach out to Heather again and talk to her.
That'd be great.
As Nick, I'm sure you will as well, to help facilitate. I really do think she's been a great partner, and so has the whole ZBA. I don't have any concerns about it. I spoke to her on Sunday, as I said. As Marzi has also concurred, I don't anticipate, I will remind her of the deadlines. And I'm sure she's well aware, but I will certainly remind her of the deadlines that Benet is facing. And, this has been a long process. We know clearly what our directive was, from special town meeting. I don't want this to turn into a political issue, right? This is something that's been decided, a project that we're moving forward with. And really, we're all on the same page. So I don't see the need to make it adversarial. I don't think it is. And I just want to iron that out and make sure that there aren't any hiccups. She was very good about letting us know what they were concerned with. And it was, very fair stuff. And I really feel like she will come through, and that the ZBA will come through and do what they need to do and do their due diligence that they're
I
required
don't
to
think
do.
there's any issue with that, Danielle, whatsoever. I think just the dates that were presented, in a couple of our minds made it start to seem as though we had an issue, and so we're just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, and
That's it.
that's why I'm saying it publicly, because I want to do the same thing, so.
So if it's okay, I'd like to return to the actual issue here. So I'm still a little bit confused about why a major expense about moving the culvert is something that wasn't addressed in the LDA. What would we have done if we couldn't have gotten a $750,000 grant to pay for this? It's great that we did, but we knew this had to happen. I'm a little confused about that.
Well, this is a project cost. The good part is that the Commonwealth has several programs that assist communities with infrastructures, and especially, as you know, that the Commonwealth has, I don't want to say, not incentivizes, but really encourages communities to build affordable housing. We all know that we need affordable housing. There are grant programs that assist communities to reach those goals. And one of the grant programs is the One Stop, and that really assists with infrastructure improvements and the abilities to build affordable housing, or just improve the conditions, the housing conditions within the Commonwealth. For us, this was a program that is available to the community. So when the round of funding was available, we have worked with the staff from B'nai B'rith to collaborate on the application to really assist the project. Because as you know, affordable housing, it's very expensive, especially now, what's going on in the building industry in terms of tariffs, the increased cost of constructions, and then just even some of the site conditions that we have in here. So if anything else, the town, the select board, all of you have been amazing to work with the developer. I think that, in the, spirit and the collaboration of creating affordable housing, this was a grant that was available, and, luckily we were funded, so now we can,
That's the
move
point,
forward
though,
with the
right there,
project.
Marzi. Luckily. That's what I don't get. Still, I understand all that. That's all wonderful, but it's not a surprise that we had to move the culvert, right? So I don't understand how, or did we always just assume that we'd get the one stop?
I think the one distinction I just want to highlight, I wasn't a part of it, but that Marzi identified in the beginning was the original footprint of the project within the site was different than it is now.
Yeah, but we approved the footprint that it is now with the LDA. So it wasn't like, that was 2 steps ago.
And I understand your concern with the fact that we did move forward without it. I think for the purposes of this evening, if possible, we did get it. It is an opportunity for us to make sure that when we're looking at anything that comes down the pike in the future, that it's incumbent upon me and the staff that's here, obviously, but me as the person that's responsible for them, that we are taking into account all of these things so that we're not having the discussion of where we have an LDA, we didn't get the grant, what do we do now? In this particular case, I don't know how far down the road we can go with the three parties that are here, me being ignorant to it, and even the folks from the development team. We did get it. In this case, we have the money to do it, and we will make sure that in the future we are not moving forward without addressing it in the LDA or understanding where that funding would come from. I'm not sure what information we can provide to you that would give satisfaction to the question, I guess is.
Okay, but it doesn't mean I can't ask the question. I mean, it's a huge expense and a major piece of the project that it's making me scratch my head a little bit, like, how did we miss this?
I think that's the key. It's us. It's on us that we missed it, right? Because it's not on Nick, certainly wasn't here.
No, I wasn't.
So it kind of, that is a good point. What did we miss, right? I think we were so concerned with getting the project moving that.
Did we
maybe
miss,
this
or
is-
did the design just get changed?
But
Well, still,
we approved
though.
the design that it is, right? So
And I'm
maybe
not suggesting you
that's-
can't ask the question. I was just trying
Yeah.
to say that I think the answer is a way that we can improve our process.
Absolutely.
And it's sort of yes and. Like, we did get it. I don't know how you want us to address what we would have done if we didn't, because it's not a scenario that
But we
we're.
definitely have to implement something in the future where that doesn't happen, right?
But Marzi, there was a similar project, I believe, right around the corner on Boynton, I believe, that did qualify for grants. I think I think there was grant work for water
Boynton?
sewer infrastructure improvements there as well.
No, the Boynton Place, the,
We applied for the grant, didn't get it.
We did not get it.
We did not get that one.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
there's another round of funding that we already started to discuss to try to secure funding to work on the water lines within the neighborhood to really support, like, you know.
To increase the size of the.
Exactly, yes.
Does that include the Boynton area?
Yes, that would include the entire
Includes Boynton
project.
and-
So we're
Pine
gonna go after those?
Erie.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna go after those grants?
Yes, and that round opens up in, later in January. So Gino and I already had started to have discussions.
And that was also a consideration for zoning. They were concerned about that. And Heather did express that she discussed that a little bit with Benet on one of their recent calls. Am I stating that correctly, Benet? Is there, you guys you knew about the water line situation, right?
So the peer reviewer is focused on all the infrastructure in the neighborhood and the fact connecting to the development, so sewer, water, culvert, muni stormwater has all been under their review and I'll say very thorough review. They've been very detailed on your behalf. So we're responding and providing more information and making sure that they and Gino feel comfortable.
Great,
with our plan.
thank you.
So just one of my thoughts is, I know that grant applications are now coming in front of the select board, typically on the consent agenda. So we're seeing these as they're being applied for. But I think maybe getting a, quarterly update or some type of update as to where that's progressing, because right now we're seeing that we're applying for them, but we're not necessarily seeing
The outcome.
So I think that would be helpful for me, certainly.
And we'll definitely do that. We'll do both. Obviously, we submit some grants that we're very successful with, and we share in the success, but there are quite a few that, we do submit and are not funded. So we'll make sure to update you on both.
Great.
Thank you, Marzi.
Okay.
Okay. I'd just say, I still, I sure hope it comes in within $850,000, because I'm not really sure what happens if it's any more than that. But I guess we'll just figure it out at that point. If that's a, unfortunate situation that happens, I'm most comforted by the fact that Gino said someone gave an estimate, I don't know if you literally said this, but my inference was that they're probably going to be a bidder. So if they gave an estimate, then maybe that's a good indication that it'll come in at that amount. But if it doesn't, if it comes in higher, I'm not really sure what happens, so hopefully that won't happen.
Deal with it.
What's that?
We'll have to deal with it.
Then that's it for that item, unless there's any further discussion. As I said, there's no action.
Good thing we
so-
didn't have to vote, huh?
Thank you to the team from the development team for joining us.
Thank you, Benay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all for having us.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is review, discuss, and potentially vote on special municipal employee designations.
So the discussion around special municipal employees came up when we initially looked at adding Mr. Schutzer, I want to say that correctly, to the Housing Authority. There has been back and forth discussion with our council. In his case, Housing Authority is already sort of handled and dealt with by statute as a special municipal employee. The reason I left this on the agenda is it was highlighted by KP because we did not have any records anywhere in the clerk's office. Many communities do. Where the select board, as a policy decision, you're under no obligation to do this, will designate a number of committees as special municipal employees because of the expertise and the professional experience that their membership normally entails. The reason for doing a special municipal employee is that it is a little more flexible on the conflict laws. It still is required that they are disclosed, but it allows someone to be representing for a fee before a different town committee, a client, which right now they cannot if they are not designated as special municipal employee. These I'm just going to say special employees because it's easier for me to get it out. These special employees are not designated by individual, which was the original thought from the Housing Authority folks when we had Mr. Schutzer. They are by role or position or committee. And so the idea of putting this before you was if you were interested in it, looking at planning, conservation, ZBA to start. We could always come back with others in the future, but those are ones where there's generally folks that are professionals in the field that serve in their community and may occasionally also represent, as a matter of in the course of their business, represent clients before other municipalities or even here. As of right now, they would need to recuse themselves, not work with those clients within their business. This would be an opportunity to allow them to do it. It is still required that they disclose. It just gives them a little more flexibility, and it allows the community to leverage their experience and expertise that they've developed professionally on these volunteer elected or appointed boards.
Have we received any other requests from members of these, from sitting members or applicants of these committees to be designated as?
No, to date we have not. The idea in talking to KP was that we are trying to avoid potential issues in the future. If there were a vacancy, or if there is someone that wants to run, or if there is someone that wants to be appointed and they work professionally in the field and work with municipalities on a regular basis. It's sort of belt and suspenders to prepare for the future, and we would also keep this on record in the clerk's office because, in all honesty, it could be something that was done 35 years ago and the record just was, Mike looked high and low to try and avoid even having to do this. So that was sort of where we are right now. It's the idea that we are avoiding these potential issues in the future and also hopefully broadening the field of residents who may be interested in serving. If they are familiar with these laws, they may have, chosen not to volunteer in the past.
So two separate camps, right? So just to recap, Mr. Schutzer for the Housing Authority, that's already categorized as
Already okay.
Already okay, so it's in the consent agenda. We're not really dealing with that on this agenda item.
Correct.
What we are dealing with here is the recommendation to add the Board of Assessors, Board of Health, ZBA, CPC, Capital Improvement Committee, Recreation Committee.
That was the exhaustive list you put together.
Historical Commission, Historic District Commission to also be added as special municipal employees.
Correct. And it is your policy decision to make. We don't need to do this tonight. It was something that, as a best practice, would put us in a position to allow future volunteers to be appointed or to be elected to those roles.
And your recommendation would be aligned with Tom McEnany's?
Yes. And make sure that we have the record available so that going forward, we can immediately point to it and say this action was taken on January 7th. They were designated, and as such, they have this, additional flexibility to be able to serve.
I'm fine to move forward and follow the recommendation of.
Shall I take that as a motion?
Yes.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, fantastic. The next item, I believe, is the potential legal services.
Yes, it is.
So I've had this, as with solid waste, is outside of procurement, the 30B strictures, so you can have discussions in advance. I've spoken to 2 firms to see if there would be capacity to apply if we were to, go through some sort of a formal process that would definitely reflect and mirror the RFP, but it is not actually, normal 30B procurement. There was interest from both of them. I also alerted Tom that we had this discussion, just so KP was also aware that it's at least something that has been discussed at the end of the last board meeting and was being discussed in more detail tonight. The recommendation for me and sort of the detail I wanted to share with you all was if we were going to move forward, I would like to put together an RFP that I can share with the group for feedback. We can discuss it in the future if you'd like. That process would ask for sort of the service proposal and the price proposal. We would look at their qualifications, or the request for qualifications and a price proposal. The request for qualifications would be the basis for an interview process that, in my mind, happy to take guidance from you all, but would be 2 rounds. One is a handful of department heads, and hopefully the moderator and a couple of chairs would be ideally a way that we would do this, so that there are multiple points of view into it in that first round. We would then come to you all with a recommendation. If there were 5 respondents, we might narrow it. If there's only 3 respondents, we might have all 3 come before you. But that first round of interviews would be something that, in my experience when we did this in Milton, it ran about 90 minutes each, as opposed to a pretty tight 50 to 60 that the select board did with each respondent. And it allowed for a pretty frank discussion, from the ZBA. Heather might say, these are things that we do, this is how we operate with outside consultants or with attorneys on the board. It really helped that process forward. And we were able to put forward a recommendation to the board that was informed not just by the request for qualifications, but by that discussion as well. We would then move to a process where you all would interview, as I said, 2, 3, 4, depending on what we have, final respondents, so that you all could weigh in, have a public interview with them, and ultimately make the decision on who you would like to appoint as town council. So that would be the way I would like to do it. I want to be explicit by having this discussion that you are all on board with the idea that we're exploring it. It may mean that we end up with who we have. It might be that you talk to a number of firms and who we have now is who we want. It might be that there's someone else. But what I didn't want was to not have this discussion and then get to the point that we have 3 people in front of you and everyone's like, well, we have a great experience. Why do we have these other 2 firms in here? I just want everyone to understand that we're moving forward with this and eyes wide open that this is the path we intend to take. And the next step, if we choose to do this, would be to draft that request for qualifications and price proposal, which would basically mirror an RFP that we would put together.
That sounds
Sounds good to me.
sounds good.
Yep.
And just the last thing I'll add to
Do you want
that.
to vote just for posterity's sake?
That would be, I wouldn't mind a vote. The last thing I'll say is that, I've talked to a handful of administrators in this area, and I'm also looking at the Mass Municipal Law Association, and we'll send it to a couple of other firms, or reach out to other firms rather, that represent multiple towns, just so we're not looking at sort of the sole practitioner model, but one that has expertise in land use and, contracts and the like, so that we're getting, whether it is a large firm or a smaller firm, we're getting sort of everything together as opposed to a single individual that does it, which is the case in a few communities nearby.
Yeah, motion to accept the recommendation of the town administrator to put together an RFQ for further discussion, asking for service and a price proposal for town legal services.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Did you want to say, was there anything more on controlling legal expenses that you wanted to say, or that's all part of this?
That will be built into the price proposal, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had any short-term things you were going to suggest, but okay, all right.
I can speak to them again. I spoke to them. I am making sure that department heads go through me, and Tom is making sure if they don't go through me, that it comes back through me. So I think we have.
I'm not asking you.
I know. I think we have a good handle on what's coming and going. The idea that we need to narrow the spend is something that we all understand and will work towards.
Great. Okay. Next item, discussion and possible vote approving the current language of H3917, recreational land tax treatment.
And this was the.
The golf course.
Correct, the home rule work that was done at town meeting prior to my arrival. It is now in the committee for the third reading, I believe, in the legislature. And we heard from Representative Armini's office that because of the way it was drafted and the way the vote was taken, they would just like a vote attested to by the board, with the raised stamp from Mike down in the clerk's office, sent to them so that everyone, it's a procedural move that's being requested by this committee in the legislature to make sure that this bill can continue to move forward. There's no substantive change that has been made. They just were not as happy with the drafting as they could have been, I guess, in the council's office.
So there was no substantive change in the.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, there can't be, because it was voted at town meeting, so.
And if there had, in a more perfectly drafted document, there would have been wording in there that says any substantive change can be approved by the board. They feel like we're not even, that's not the question, it's not a substantive change. They want to make sure that the board is on, the way it was drafted, they don't have comfort that the board is behind the decision.
So just putting our stamp of approval.
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So I think you're on the consent agenda now?
Yes, we are.
Well, can you just pull the minutes and put them on for the next meeting?
Sure. Okay.
And can you also just make it really clear, because we did receive an email prior to walking in here about the issue of whether or not we have to vote as a roll call vote.
So if I understood the question correctly that was raised, it was whether or not it needed to be done with the housing authority.
Right.
So what I did was I talked to the chair of the housing authority, but I also talked to the executive director, Kevin Johnson, to find out, as you can see in the email that was sent, there is a qualifier there that if the select board is not timely notified in writing, that the select board can vote and appoint alone. They do not need to do a joint meeting with the housing authority. The executive director of the housing authority does not recall ever in writing timely notifying the select board. And the chair said the same thing, that according to the executive director, it's been vacant for quite a while. There was no movement on this until late November, December, I believe, when the discussion started happening, that we had both a tenant representative that was qualified and interested and Mr. Schutzer as well. And so because we missed that 30-day window, you all are able to make the appointment legally on your own, and they will be happy to accept Mr. Schutzer and the new tenant representative, so they have a full complement on the housing authority moving forward.
And in all fairness, the Housing Authority at their last two meetings have affirmed that decision. I spoke with Mr. Patsios, the chair of the Housing Authority, this evening before this meeting, and he said, yes, we're in full support of Ms. Russo, who we've already appointed, and Mr. Schutzer. There's been no reconsideration or anything, so they're happy with us moving forward.
And he indicated the same, but directly to the question that was raised this evening, I spoke to council about it, and because of that, missing that 30-day window, you all are able to move the vote alone and without doing it in conjunction with the housing authority, and just make the appointment.
Great.
Okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Select board time. Taking note of the fact that we are now at 2 hours, just for the record.
Good job, Doug.
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Is that what it says?
No, it's 8:30. Anyway, anything?
I can go first. I just want to say thank you to Nate Beisheim, Danielle Belinsky, Joe Dulett for televising the meeting tonight. And I also would like to congratulate the chair of the planning board, Ted Dooley, and his family, Nicole Dooley and Jack Dooley. They have a new Dooley, Merritt Dooley. Sounds like Mary Dooley. I think she's named after the new Commodore at the yacht club, possibly, Mary Webster. But anyway, it's pretty exciting. Merritt Dooley showed up on the 4th, in the middle of the afternoon, and it's always exciting, so that's all I have to say tonight.
It's getting very, very local, very personal. Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
Not tonight.
Good.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Night.